I can't believe you haven't heard about this company. I mean, seriously? The whole world is obsessed with it. This multi-billionaire company was established in post-war Japan, started with one family-owned store and turned it into a global chain of over 2,000 stores in 25 countries. This is all about Tadashi Yanai and UNIQLO. Let's deep dive into this story. UNIQLO is a famous Japanese clothing brand whose history dates back to 1949 in the city of Ube on the island of Honshu. It was then that the first store called Agorishoji Men's Store was opened, which was later turned to a huge business empire called Fast Retailing Company Limited. And UNIQLO is an essential part of this empire. Today, Japan has one of the highest economies in the world. In terms of GDP, Japan ranks third in the world after the US and China. But it wasn't always like that. And to understand what was the environment in which the company was born, we need to turn to history. At the beginning of World War II, in 1939, Japanese textile products dominated the world market. Military operations by Japan in the Far East began in 1937, but it is generally accepted that Japan entered World War II in September 1940 by signing the Berlin Pact with Germany and Italy. On the 7th of December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, after which the United States entered World War II. In August 1945, at the final stage of the Second World War against Japan, the US Armed Forces carried out atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These are two exceptional cases in the history of mankind of the combat use of nuclear weapons. On the 9th of August, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan, and on the 2nd of September, Japan capitulated. A significant part of the Japanese economic potential was destroyed during the war. This was the atmosphere in 1949, the US post-war occupation and economic depression. After the war, Hiroshima Prefecture became a symbol of world peace, one of the centers that contributed to the revival and rapid growth of the Japanese economy. And in the city of Ube, on the island of Honshu, which is about 75 miles away from Hiroshima, Hidoshi Yanai, today's character's father, decided to take up the family business and founded the men's shop, Agorishoji Men's Clothing Store. And in the same year, on February 7th, the married couple Hidoshi Yanai and Hisakomori Yanai had a son, Tadashi Yanai, the future billionaire businessman, founder and president of the Fast Retailing Holding, the parent company of UNIQLO. As he recalls, his father, Hidoshi Yanai, was a very strict man, or as they call it in Japan, a stormy dad, and Tadashi was always trying to avoid him when he was a child, which was quite difficult because his home and store were in the same building. So young Tadashi was watched almost 24/7. Tadashi Yanai was always interested in their business. According to his family's stories, he was constantly looking for tasks and responsibilities, starting from stores cleaning up to looking for suitable suppliers. During his second year at the University of Waseda, student strikes and protests in Tokyo got so intense, universities, including Waseda University, had to temporarily drop all classes. I couldn't get used to the student movement, which tends to be biased toward violence, so I spent 4 years hanging around, playing pachinko and mahjong. Tadashi Yanai also decided to travel, especially because once Tadashi thought of how much money he would need for a trip around the US, his father fully supported his idea, even though it was quite an expensive trip. His actual words were, "It was quite an expensive adventure, but when I turned to my dad for support, he agreed to cover it all. And believe me, I'm still grateful to him. My 100-day journey made me understand and really feel what the world was like at that moment. I witnessed the extreme poverty of ordinary people, and have no doubt that the experience of these trips and the knowledge I received at that moment influenced me, and all the efforts that followed to open our stores around the world." In 1963, Agorishoji Company Limited had a capital of 6 million yen, which is about $147,000 today. The concept at that time remained the same. They were selling only men's clothing inspired by American styles and trends. Tadashi Yanai graduated with a degree in economics and politics from Waseda University in 1971 and began his career selling kitchenware and men's clothing at a Joska supermarket. Well, actually it was his dad that advised him on taking up that job, as he wanted his son to experience retailing in other store chains and bring all gained experience back to the family business. But Tadashi Yanai quit in 9 months. because he had no interest in working. Instead, he was chilling and having a good time with his hippie friends for about 6 months in Tokyo. Nevertheless, Yanai came back home 16 months after his graduation and became an operating director a year later. Meanwhile, the fashion trends in Japan have been changing too. The peak has changed to functional West Coast-inspired clothing and American jeans. People chose Japanese denim and workwear. Street fashion was full of prints and logos, and even deconstructed avant-garde silhouettes have become more relevant and started rising in demand. Yanai watched many popular companies go bankrupt because they couldn't bear with trends and market's needs. And Yanai made a decision. He will not be participating in these never-ending races. So, at the beginning of 1980s, Tadashi Yanai decided to invest in the production of affordable basic clothing, but it had to be functional and simple. The main idea of functional and affordable basics was inspired by his trip around the US, one he was very thankful for to his father. Tadashi Yanai realized that there are so many people who need basics for every day, basics that would last for years and still be suitable. Here's how UNIQLO's concept of lifewear was born. In 1984, Tadashi Yanai decided to open up a bigger store with his basic clothing at low prices along with traditional menswear the company used to sell for 20 years. The store was named Unique Clothing Warehouse and was located in the center of Hiroshima. The opening was a success. His customers were pleased with the new apparel. So, the business continued operating despite many other former popular brands closing down. A few years after the start of the Unique Clothing Warehouse, Tadashi Yanai began to visit Europe and America every year to study the work patterns of other clothing manufacturers, including brands such as Gap. What's more is that even Tadashi Yanai's business plan was originally based on the strategy of Gap, which at that time combined the sale of the brand's branded clothing and the reliability of the retail business. He often turned to executive director Mickey Dreskler for inspiration, and in a meeting in the late 1980s, he even told him, "You are my teacher. I watch everything you do." Guys, you probably wonder why the brand is called UNIQLO. Well, the story is not as fascinating as it might seem. Initially, the brand was going to be registered as UNIQLO with a C, short for Unique Clothing. However, in 1988, while doing administrative work in Hong Kong to register the brand, the registration staff mistyped the letter C as Q. Tadashi didn't correct the mistake, and the mistaken name quickly caught on, and UNIQLO was born. I mean, sometimes even a little typo may have a significant impact, you know? The brand name took on a new meaning, and it was decided to change the name of the store to UNIQLO throughout Japan. In September 1991, Tadashi Yanai changed the original name of his father's company from Agori Shoji Company Limited to Fast Retailing in order to focus on mass retail and a new distribution model. The 90s brought an economic crisis to Japan. In the following decade, people would tighten up their budgets and prefer cheaper clothing to already sustained brands. Yanai realized that to lower the costs, he needed to urgently move his production to China and work on a contract basis with partners. But Chinese factories were always keen on lower costs, which usually led to lower quality. So this could damage UNIQLO's reputation. To overcome these drawbacks, Yanai introduced a new department to the company, Takumi, which actually means qualified specialist, and forced all his partners in China to have them on board to oversee the quality of their production. Takumi's main job was to control the quality of produced clothing so that the bad ones never made it into the stores. As a result, the number of partner companies in China was down from 140 to 40. Takumi never left their duties, and although the number of companies had decreased already, Yanai was certain the department has to function daily to control each produced item and their shipment to the stores. In 1997, Fast Retailing made a key decision to adopt a set of strategies known as SPA, Specialty Store Retailer of Private Label Apparel. From the American retailer Gap, ASPA's business model spans the entire clothing value chain, from the purchase of materials to product planning, development, production, distribution, retail, and inventory management. This meant that from now on, Fast Retailing will produce branded clothing and sell it in their own stores with no contract partners or resellers. 98 turned out to be a significant year in general. It was at that time that UNIQLO presented its famous collection of fleece clothing. Same time in the US and Europe, the cost of fleece sweatshirts reached $100. Given that fleece is considered material for outwear, its cost was relatively high. Tadashi Yanai saw the potential in this, and UNIQLO started selling fleece sweatshirts for $19. Just because the prices for these materials were not as high in Japan. This campaign boosted UNIQLO sales in 1998, and it allowed the company to spread its stores across Japan. So, thanks to the understanding of trends, bold product offerings, and low prices, UNIQLO sold 2 million in 1998, 8.5 million in 1999, and 26 million fleece sweatshirts in the year of 2000. What's more is that this boom completely changed the image of UNIQLO from a cheap to a cheap but high-quality brand. In 2001, the company's sales and gross profit reached a new peak, and there were more than 500 retail stores in Japan, and the brand was already widely represented in London, New York, South Korea, and Hong Kong. In 2004, that ambition grew as the UNIQLO way was developed under the theme "Changing Clothes, Changing Conventional Wisdom, Change the World." Did you know that fashion is not only about materials and accessories, red carpets and fashion shows, but actually technology? In 2006, UNIQLO rebranded, and fast retailing entered into a strategic partnership with Toray Industries, a Japanese textile company specializing in industrial products focused on technology in synthetic chemistry, to develop a new product, Heat Tech. One of UNIQLO's most successful products since the brand's inception, Heat Tech is a linen collection that neutralizes strong odors and keeps you dry and warm during the cold season. Heat Tech technology has been well received as consumers can finally afford fashionable winter clothing without the need for layering or warm clothing. Later, Toray Industries and UNIQLO collaborated to release an additional layer of clothing, Aerism, which is a breathable underwear that eliminates excess heat and moisture. Fast retailing has finally introduced a high functionality component, defining UNIQLO's strategy of being a store with affordable prices and at the same time high quality and convenient items. If you have ever tried on t-shirt made with an Aerism layer, you probably know what I'm talking about. Yanai also worked in a wide variety of collaborations with designers and various artists, as well as presenting UNIQLO as a music and dance show, UNIQLO, at a grand international event in Cannes. The dancers performed the dance named Core Woman, with the participation of musical accompaniment. This performance surely attracted the attention of thousands, and it was such a smart marketing move to not just invest in the company's logo display during the event, but be a part of art, because in a way, UNIQLO clothing is art, right? It is important to mention that corporate social responsibility has always taken place within the company's development. For example, in 2007, UNIQLO launched an all-product recycling campaign influencing people to collect and recycle used clothes. Also, throughout many years, UNIQLO has been always donating its clothes to people after major earthquakes in Japan and China, for instance, to refugees and orphanages around the world. The company was opening more and more stores worldwide, bringing along comfortable, functional, and affordable clothing. It has been working with outstanding designers and major companies, not only because it was part of their marketing, but also because they wanted to reach out to new markets and experiment with their label. UNIQLO's management is confident that recycling and making textiles from recycled materials is indeed a big step towards environmental friendliness and energy reproduction. We see that customers are increasingly understanding the concepts of lifewear, and the proximity of our brand is growing all over the world. Fast retailing mission to provide people around the world with an infrastructure of clothing that we call lifewear, to ensure more comfortable and high-quality everyday lifestyle. Fast retailing revenue and profits continue to grow steadily due to the dynamic growth of UNIQLO around the world. In addition to existing markets in China, South Korea, and Southeast Asia, successful business structures have been established in the US and Europe that allow the company to generate stable profits. Today, Yanai is married to Teruyo Nagaoka, has 2 sons, Kazumi and Koji, and lives in Tokyo. He is 74 years old, with an estimated net worth of $33.5 billion, and was ranked the 38th richest person in the world, according to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index. UNIQLO, the group's flagship brand, generated about 1.92 trillion yen, which is about $14.1 billion in annual sales in 2022, from 2,394 stores in 25 countries and regions. Fast retailing is not just about UNIQLO. Throughout the years, the company has been steadily growing by not just expanding and opening up its branches, but also by merging and acquiring rivals, such as Theory, National Standard, Comptoir de Cotonnier, Aspesi, One Zone, Princess Tam Tam, Helmut Lang. Let me know in the comments below which one of the mentioned brands surprised you. I mean, I didn't know that Theory belongs to fast retailing, so that was interesting to find out. UNIQLO's story might seem undoubtedly smooth, but it was all built through many years of experiments, studying other brands, technological implementations, and so much more. Keep up learning, guys. Success is just the number of attempts.